Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome to episode 3 of Break the State podcast, part 2 of my discussion with Jay, the founder of Anti State Apparel, and Ryan, the self described insufferable smartass behind Or Else What on Instagram. All of their links will be in the description. So, without further ado, this is Break the State podcast, episode 3. All right, what is going on, y'all? Welcome to episode 3 of Break the State podcast. As always, I'll be your host, Dunk Limpman, and we are joined for part 2 with Anti State and Or Else What from Instagram. Anti State, antistate.net, the founder and owner of that, Jay, with us here, as well as our good buddy here, Ryan. Also from Instagram, as he put it, best known for being an insufferable smartass in the comments, which I think is pretty accurate. But again, his words, not mine. So continuing on, I wanted to quickly touch on the topic of just kind of the state of the world today with COVID and the riots, Black Lives Matter, the Boogaloo, and all of these different things kind of coming to a head with the election coming up. And 2020 has been a year. So, what are y'all's insights? What are y'all seeing where y'all are at?
You want to go first, Jay? Because yours is a little friendlier, I think.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of funny because Saving Sovereignty made a post yesterday, like a 4-piece post where he was showing subway travel in New York City and how he was being accosted by NYPD for not wearing a mask, and then how they continue to trouble him in violation of HIPAA policies and stuff like that. And immediately after I sent that to Ryan, I turned around and sent a video from a very good friend of mine, a musician who is playing outdoors at a local shopping center. And, it's just continuous footage panning around and showing everything and him talking about the music he's playing and whatnot. But you can just tell, like, nobody's got a mask on. Everybody's walking around talking. It's just like a real social, friendly, open atmosphere. And it was just...
And where is this?
This is here in Georgia.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's here in Texas. I mean, pretty much everybody is wearing a mask when you go inside anywhere because it's statewide mandate still. But outside, I mean, it's I'd say it's, I don't know, maybe 60% aren't wearing a mask. About 40% maybe are wearing a mask outside.
Wow.
I see people walking by themselves or driving in their cars by themselves wearing a mask, and yeah, that shit gets to me a little bit.
I mean, it's indoors. You're looking at, depending on the property owner's policies or whatever, but if there's no restrictions or anything and people are just to do however they please, it's around 50-50 indoors that are wearing masks, it seems like. But then once you're outdoors, like, there's probably 25-30% of people at most. And even then, like, they have it down, their nose is exposed, or they're wearing it improperly, or some other way that's comfortable for them. So locally, it really almost kind of seems like maybe the people read the box that the mask came in. And
what does it say on the box?
Well, I mean, if you look at the size particles that those things are meant to stop versus what the average and nominal size of coronavirus particles, it's just not enough. Like, it's passing right through that, man. It's
Yeah. The masks that people are wearing, even if they're wearing surgical masks or a piece of cotton, like, are just not for protecting against what is going to happen for viral transmission. Like, it's not sealed up enough to be able to contain what's coming out. And the only thing it's actually directly stopping is, like, what it was like. If it's a surgical mask, it was literally designed to stop a surgeon from getting blood in his mouth. Like, it wasn't designed for
Mm.
anything really other than that. So like, if you're looking at that kind of flow, like, that's somebody spitting on you. And like, I don't know where people were living before all this started, where it was okay to be spitting on people or like just sneezing in people's faces. Like, but that was never cool where I'm living, at least, and the way I was raised. So I don't really think that it makes sense to put this thing that's all it's capable of stopping in front of your face. I think you were capable of, holding back that sneeze while you're in somebody's space, or if you needed to do any like some spitting for some reason, I think you would go somewhere where it's not going to go on somebody or into a public area if you had some manners to begin with.
Right. Yeah, the whole mask thing, it's really a trip for me because I mean, in the beginning, the CDC and WHO and all those were telling us, oh, you don't even need a mask, really, let's not panic and buy all the masks because you're taking them away from the doctors and the nurses that actually need them, and you
Yep.
guys don't need them. And then there was this whole flip to now mask, 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 mask.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? Like, what's the goal here? Is this
Oh,
kind of like
that's
is this dehumanization?
that's already.
Bingo.
There's been several studies that have already been published about the psychological impact of requiring people to wear masks, and
Mhm.
I would definitely encourage you to dig in a little bit of that. And it kind of goes back to what we were saying in the last episode about compliance.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just
I
got to
definitely
thinking
think
about it with the
Go ahead.
masks too. Especially, and where I'm at, I can tell you mask compliance is at an insanely high rate. I'm in a pretty left centered place in New York, upstate, not in the city, but still very blue voting section of New York State. For those of you that aren't from New York or have never been here, even though it's known to be a blue state, most of New York is not blue geographically. Once you leave the major urban areas, most of the areas are red. The section of like the county I am in happens to be blue though. And it's probably 90% or higher are wearing masks even outdoors at this point.
Mhm.
Indoors, it is damn near 100%. I'm trying to think of when the last time I saw somebody else other than myself or my girlfriend inside of a business without a mask on in the last probably 3 months, when it's gotten pretty bad, with just people being like, yeah, this is what I do now, and they do. So I still don't comply at every place that isn't a private business saying no mask, no service. In which case, if it's something that I need and I can't get through alternative means, I have a mask that's made out of like complete mesh. Like, you can literally see my smile through it. And I put it on and I conduct my business, and I have gotten zero pushback from it. Because it's
Really?
not about the effectiveness, it's about compliance, and that it really
Right.
proves it every time that I do it. That they really don't care about whether it's blocking things going through. They just care that you comply with what the man on the TV or their candidate said that you should do to be a good person. And they don't want to give up their righteousness. So they're going to, every chance they get, say, you have to too. So on the rare chances that I do have to comply to be able to keep my life comfortable, I wear my mesh mask and laugh hysterically to myself at watching these people that are having shit fits over a mask being pulled down below somebody's nose 5 feet away from me, but say not a word to me that they could literally see my beard hair coming through the mask.
I got to experience this myself, and it was really interesting because, first off, with Corona, I was at Disney when all of that went down. Like, we were there the 3 days up until Disney closed, and we
Right.
were walking around the parks, and we've never wore masks. Like, as a family, my 7-year-old, she absolutely would not ever wear a mask. She refuses to do business with anywhere that requires it. And so, we got to experience Disney, and it was all kind of weird. Like, people were essentially at that point, the only people that you saw that were wearing masks were obviously Asian tourists. who were already were already in masks before they got there. So
Right.
that was all that you would see. But, at that point in time, like, they're talking about the virus can survive outdoors on hard surfaces for up to 3 weeks. I mean, not literally, but these outrageous claims that
Pretty close to it though at the
it's
beginning, I think.
I think
With those
actually
estimates.
the first that I saw was like 21 days. And I'm like, what can hold up to 21 days of UV light?
Right?
You know what I'm saying? Like, somebody didn't actually study this. This is something that somebody threw out here. Come on, guys. It sounded good. And so I got that unique view. And then, we traveled back via car, and that was interesting, stopping at places and kind of seeing the hysteria and the fervor build, as we're getting calls from the in-laws saying, hey, if y'all stop anywhere, can you pick up some toilet paper? Everywhere's out. And we're like, what the fuck? We stole like 20 rolls of toilet paper from the or from the hotel. We're good to go. We had no idea. It just was a stroke of luck. But so getting back to Georgia, everything just kind of immediately shut down. Like, schools were closed and just everything was kind of wild. And then in July, I got to travel to New York to go kick it with Ryan for a few days. And so that entailed, going through the airport here in Atlanta and then flying into LaGuardia, which is filthy.
Welcome to New York City.
That was an experience, bro. But so just going through TSA and everything, like to the point where here's TSA, like the people that are protecting us from the terrorists,
Right.
AKA FBI inspired. Anyways, here are these people, like, they're checking your ID, and like most people are just, completely they're almost their whole face is covered. They're terrified. Like, they've got, the mask up in their eyes and shit. It's crazy. And they're like checking people's IDs, looking at them, mask on, no problem whatsoever. I mean, it's like, okay, so like, which one are you more afraid of, Corona or terrorists? Like, what's going on here? And it was just kind of like it was kind of an experience, because it was just like, wow, like these people really can't buy into this. And then I get in New York and we're getting off the plane, and right before I got up there, it was kind of sketchy because New York State, what was it? Just enacted like their mandatory quarantine for people from like these states with a certain criteria. And I had my flight booked or whatever, but my state had gotten added to the list like right before that.
Like a day before, right? It was like maybe 36 hours at the most before your flight. Then all of a sudden Georgia comes up on a list and you're like, oh, cool. Let's see what this adds to the trip.
It was, I mean, it was, it was kind of like an oh shit moment, because like, what the government's capable of. And like, they just implemented this program. So like, how do you really know what to expect? And I ended up going anyways. And I was at the time, like literally they handed out a photocopied form to you on the plane that you had to turn in when you got off the plane. And literally it was like a large cardboard box that everybody dropped their form into. There's nobody verifying information or anything like that. From what I understand now, it's not like that. But at this time, there was no information verification. And, I'm not going to say that I put down incorrect information on the form, but I can tell you, like, they didn't have the means to really check it at the time. So, but I did receive several phone calls from the New York State Contact Tracing Program, which was pretty sketchy because, if they can call you, there's a whole lot of other information that they can get about you, such as whether you are where you're supposed to say you are. And as to whether or not they had that capability, I wasn't really sure. But I knew that when they would call, I was in my quarantine location every single time. And
Yeah.
But
I mean, I don't know about you, but I carry around a tracking
yeah,
device. So
absolutely. And that's my point. And like, I got creative with some of that stuff. I don't think I ever used the internet that wasn't on a VPN and some other stuff to kind of maybe add some confusing data to anything that I was
Mhm.
putting out, but nothing too intense. But getting up there and seeing how it was like night and day difference. Because July in Georgia, things had kind of relaxed down here. The governor had pretty much already, said, hey, there's no crazy mandates or anything. And then I flew into somewhere that had travel restrictions. And the town that Ryan lives in is easily one of the most beautiful towns in America. But the people there are absolutely horrified
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
things that are going on in the world. Would you agree with that, Ryan?
Yeah. Most of them scurry around like little scared. I don't even know what's, but they're definitely very scared all of the time. You don't hear laughter in the streets or anything like that. You just see people hurrying to get back to their car after grabbing what items they need from the businesses that they went to. People really, I mean, we have indoor dining available now, but it's really not booming any place.
Oh,
It's
at
not like
that
the demand for
when
it
I
is
was there,
even like,
nowhere had no, you couldn't eat
yeah, we've
inside
gotten it
anywhere.
back since where you can eat inside, but you have to wear a mask. Like I'm sure you've seen the memes about it, where it's like the dumbest thing I've ever done was
Yeah.
walk into a restaurant and wear a mask until I got to my table and then sit down and take it off. That's what a lot of the restaurants are doing. I can say I have eaten out quite a few times since that started. Sometimes with a roof over my head, sometimes without. I have not yet put a mask on to eat out. I have done it a couple times to get items from stores that have a mandate, but restaurants, I tend to. Where there's restaurants, there's another restaurant right next door. There's free market competition, so I'm willing to roll the dice on being kicked out.
Mhm.
So, so I
There's
have
an
not yet
alternative.
passed up and just walked into every place that I have, and I have not gotten pushback to the point where I've gotten kicked out from any place. I did have one bartender just yell the word masks at me, my girlfriend, and the couple that we were out with from like 20 feet away with no other context. And all four of us were not wearing masks after having come into the door and were walking past no tables that were occupied by anyone to go sit down. And he just yelled the word masks at us and nobody listened and then sat down.
Idiot.
So that was good. But
Ryan really showed me an experience while I was up there when we went to the bagel spot.
yeah, you got to
Because
experience a little bit.
yeah, because you and I walked in there and we were the only two people in that entire place that didn't have masks on our face.
Yeah.
Mm.
And this is
And it's
like early
continues to be that
July.
way.
Oh, it's still like that up there?
Yeah, like every
Man,
place is still masked up. Every
dude.
place.
See, that's just mind
They're
blowing.
still not enforcing there, though. I can still go to that bagel shop and go without a mask, and no employee or anything asks me to do otherwise. And I generally have a really good conversation with somebody who's wearing a mask while I'm waiting for my bagels.
I
So it's
have
really a really positive experience.
I have the best interactions with employees at businesses that I frequent because I don't wear a mask anywhere, even the places that require it. If they want to come and say, "Hey, you're going to need to put a mask on or leave," dude, I'm leaving.
Exactly.
I'm out of here. But otherwise, like, it's a suggestion as far as I'm concerned. If there's no
Hmm.
Mhm.
enforcement, come on. Like, you don't even have somebody saying anything to me about it. I never put a mask on. Never, never, ever. My local grocery store, mask required, mask required. I've been in that place, what, twice a week for the last month, and I never wear a mask in there. Nobody ever says
Yeah.
anything to me except for, "Hey, sir, how are you today?" And they have the most engaging conversation with me because they're ecstatic
Yep.
to see a happy, smiling face, somebody who's not, covered
Yeah.
up.
Same here. The
Right.
places that I can get away with it, I generally get a really positive
Mm.
response. It's super polarizing, like depending on what the atmosphere of the general clientele is, because it just takes that loud minority to turn the crowd someplace, even if the ownership of the building doesn't necessarily have a strong position about it. But I have found that most of the time when I'm out without a mask on, it's a pretty positive response from 95% of people, even though most of them, if not all of them, are wearing masks around me at this point.
Even when businesses bring it to my attention that they're asking people to wear masks, I stole my line from Ryan. My response to people is, I'm sorry, I have a medical exemption. Thank you for your
Mhm.
thank you for your concern. And
Yeah.
I'm very genuine about it, and I always say it with a genuine smile because I do mean it. Like I appreciate their concern. Now I just want to go on about my fucking day. And
Yeah, I was
Man,
doing that for a while before I had the mesh mask, and it was still uncomfortable to like breathe through a mask. I was doing that exact line, and any place that said that was unacceptable, I was out of, the same as you. But now that I have this mesh mask, I think it's hysterical to walk up to them and
I'm gonna have to
have
try
them
no,
that.
for that.
dude, I need one because my biggest thing is like you can't see my mustache if I'm wearing a mask. So
In this one, you will. Yours is
Oh
strong too.
man.
It'll poke through the holes pretty good, I think.
perfect.
I wish I had the Instagram pulled up to be able to tell you where I got it from. We'll have to. I don't know if you got like a show notes or anything going, Dunk, but I can probably get you the link at a later date for anybody that's interested in them.
Yeah, definitely. I'll put that in the description for sure.
And I think tieback, if I remember correctly, my girlfriend told me the woman who makes them is a homeschool mom. So
Oh,
supporting
Nice.
homeschooling
Okay.
and getting to kind of stick it to the man directly in their face with
Hell
your
yeah.
non-compliant compliance mask.
Yeah, man. I mean, here in Texas, I don't think that many people are really. A lot of people, I think, are really just ready to go back to normal, which apparently that doesn't exist anymore. But
Yeah.
a lot of people, as soon as like the restaurants started opening up, and it's still the same thing, like you said, you have to wear a mask before you go sit down or what have you. But man, the restaurants are flooded. Businesses are booming down here. People are out and about all the time, and I think the people that are afraid are just either at home or you see them, masked up with gloves and all of those things.
Yeah.
You still see a few of those, and those are always fun to watch. Anybody that comes near them within 5 feet or what have you, they kind of skirt off to the other direction, and
Yeah.
it's pretty entertaining, honestly, but kind of scary, kind of sad at the same time. So
Yeah, sad is the word I would use for it. Like, it makes me sad to watch them all doing it around me. Like, I could see it being funny when they're the minority, but now that it's become the
yeah,
majority here, it's just sad to walk down the road
mm.
with a smile, to keep a smile on my face while I'm watching such a huge amount of them scurry away from a smile is sad that we've come to that point.
yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, when this whole thing first started kicking off, I went to HEB. That's one of the local places down here in Texas. It's kind of like our own personal Walmart, I guess you could say. And A lot of the people were very kind, and it kind of brought people together. I think a lot. People were very, oh, excuse me, I'm so sorry I got in your way. Just you have this very like the sense of community, the sense of like everybody kind of coming together and being polite and kind of like we're all in this together sort of thing. And that quickly went away once people, once the real lockdown started, and this divide, and then of course the protests, protesting the masks and everything, and it obviously became a bipartisan issue.
Yeah.
So that's fun. As everything does in this country, it becomes a left versus right, and has us kind of stuck in the middle arguing both sides. And
It's
That
almost
makes me so
like
happy to hear.
it's not just there.
Yeah,
what's that?
that No, it makes me happy to hear that you had that coming together time, because I can tell you in New York, I cannot remember that together time really ever happening. We were pretty much at each
Well, it was
other's
short
throats
lived.
from the TP shortage.
Yeah, it was short lived. It was right before the toilet paper thing. It was just right as it was really starting to happen, and people, you could see people running out to the store and stocking up. I was one of them. I'll admit,
Yeah.
stocking up on canned foods and rice and all of that good stuff. And
Hmm.
I don't know. It felt like everybody. It was kind of like people. I've heard the same description as after 9/11. I was kind of too young to really have felt that as much. I was in the third grade. then. But people have described it as, after 9/11, people really like kind of were more
Hmm.
neighborly towards
Oh
one
yeah.
another, and
Mhm.
I felt that a little bit here, but like I said, it wore off pretty quickly
Well,
as soon as it
because
became a bipartisan
the
issue.
nature of everything is that the danger comes from other people. So,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah, be afraid of your neighbor.
the news media doesn't have to say, fear fear your neighbor. But, if you tell them, oh man, think about the statistics they told us early on about how deadly this shit is, and then how deadly it turned out to be.
Right, we were
But
told 2 million people
mhm.
it was going to be a conservative number, and we got 200,000 with like super sketchy counting, and everybody's like going like, "This is the worst thing that could have ever happened," and I'm like, "It's like 10% of what you thought like the minimum was going to happen was going to be. Shouldn't you be happy about that? Like,
They don't
this
want
is
to
like
admit they're
somebody
wrong.
told you there was going to be a hurricane." And instead there was a light breeze, and you're like, "Whoa, that breeze was chilly, wasn't it? I think I'm gonna die."
Like a lot of things that government does, they're only going to rectify things or take corrective action enough to maintain some thin veil of credibility, and not
Oh
any
yeah.
more than that. So, regardless of what happens, are there going to be a bunch of government funded scientists that come out and be like, "Phew, guys, yeah, we probably should have actually applied the scientific method and, I don't know, tested some of these hypotheses before we told you all of this stuff and shut down the economy. But, Timmy, you didn't need to eat Thanksgiving dinner anyways." I mean, it's just there was a lot of judgment that was made off of very unscientific data. And I don't
Mhm.
think that they're ever going to come and say, "Hey, yeah, we screwed the pooch on this one." But at the same time, I can only hope that a lot of people kind of woke up to see how things actually are in the scientific community, that, they will consistently put this information out and tell you that this is how it is. But when you actually go to start researching it, it's not even a theory. It's an untested hypothesis that somebody came up with 50
Right.
years ago, but we currently lack the technology to be able to measure or, test or whatever. And here you're taught your whole life that this something is a fact, that there's a scientific fact. And when you actually really start to dig into the science behind it, you realize that it's all theories that the stuff is based upon. So I think
Hmm.
that things like that are good to kind of keep your mind sharp and get you to kind of question things and kind of think outside the box. And I hope that the events of 2020 have been significant enough to kind of wake up some sleepyheads who maybe didn't want to see things that, the way that they are.
Yeah, I think I hope you're right about that. What worries me is that a lot of the people that I would hope would have woken up are instead just jumping on the Trump bandwagon, or what have you, you know, or the other way around with Biden and his cop lady friend there. How do you guys feel about with the election coming up and all of these riots? They seem to have kind of all of that seems to have kind of slowed down. I don't know if it's just the media not talking about it as much, but
Well, I do know one thing about riots: they are corona proof.
Yes. Well, as long as
you
they're for
can't
the
catch
right
coronavirus.
reasons.
Exactly. Yeah, you can't catch coronavirus if you're at a left wing
That's
rally.
true.
That's for sure.
Very true. It is
Yeah.
oddly politically specific.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my favorite when the guys that were going out there, what is it, Virginia, where they had the big gun rallies earlier this year, and it's in the middle of the lockdown, and people are like, "Oh, you're going out there, you're killing our grandmothers and all this shit," and then they turn around and go protest for Black Lives Matter, and that's great, protest the police, I'm all for it, but the hypocrisy and the double standards just blow my
You know,
mind. Um,
I had a lot of customers, a lot of anti-state customers, a lot of followers attend those events in Virginia, and
mhm.
wow, the showing that those guys put forth was it was good. Like, you could tell they were definitely having fun. I think they were definitely representing everything really well. And then to see how things have gone since then, like to see how these protests have devolved into violence and property destruction, and you
Yeah.
take that into the scope of those those earlier protests in Virginia, and it's just like, wow, you guys really did a good job. 'Cause if the metric is not burning down the fucking city, you guys did great.
Right, and it's like,
Sure.
dude, they're not even burning down the right buildings. I mean,
True.
you're burning down Target. Go burn down the federal building. I'm not going to complain about that. Oh, did I say that out loud? I'm sorry.
FBI has entered the chat.
That's okay. It's not something I haven't already said before. I'm just saying. I mean, if you're targeting the wrong people, you're mad at the cops, and you're burning down AutoZone. Like, what the hell did they do to you?
Well,
Yeah.
to be fair, I'm pretty sure that a cop set that AutoZone on fire.
Oh yeah, Umbrella Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Oh yeah, I
and
remember that video. That
and
was a good one.
that's something that, once stuff like that kind of comes out and people put two and two together, isn't it interesting how that shit goes away?
Yeah, all of
Yeah, they
the
tightened their
burning
game
down
up.
buildings and all of that. That's definitely something that's subsided for the most part. I mean, I think the last time we really saw that was in Kenosha.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And even then, I can't even possibly fathom how people can confuse the act of criminals for the acts of protesters. And I think that that's one kind of. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, you're good.
you guys are so quiet for a second. I thought I lost you. But train wreck.
You're good. You were talking about the difference between the way that people see the protesters and
Oh
violent
yeah, yeah,
criminals.
yeah. So like that's really the thing that's going on, is that all the protesters are either painted as, left or right or whatever, and people really want you to perceive them that way. That, these people are out here committing crimes, whether it's arson or, whether it's other violent crimes or property theft or whatever. They are taking the acts of individual criminals and attributing that to the mass of people that are protesting whatever it is that government's fucking up at that time.
Right. Yeah,
And
that's that's just partisan politics.
that's very dangerous. The news
Definitely.
throws that spin on it every single time. And they're never going to stop doing that. You only come across that perspective in independent media. Like, hey, there are these guys out here that, they don't necessarily agree with everything on principle, but they're out here to support based on this. And I think that that's something that, needs to be highlighted a little bit more. I think that we saw a lot of libertarians, a lot of guys get involved in everything that was going on in Seattle. And I think that they really kind of expected a lot more support up there than they actually got.
Talking about
Because
the Chaz or the Chop or whatever they called it. Yeah.
But I think the people that were expecting some sort of support didn't necessarily realize that they were expecting support from somebody who they've been advocating against for years. And like, I can understand the hesitancy and, the whole sticky situation, but generalizing entire masses of protests, people that are protesting the government, generalizing them by the criminality of individuals is just wholly ignorant. There's no way that you can logically justify that. People are definitely going to take advantage. Criminals are definitely going to take advantage of that environment in order to do what they were probably going to do anyways. And then to attribute that just to the protesters, I mean,
Yeah, I mean it's it's pissed off, 18-year-olds that come out of their, their parents' basement to come burn some shit that they don't even really care about the actual, message or the, what's actually going on. They just want to take advantage of this opportunity to get some new Air Jordans or whatever. And yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It's on
I follow a girl
TV
on
folks.
Instagram who she was arrested. I'm not gonna really go into details or whatever, but she was arrested for inciting a riot
oh,
because she was on Snap or on IG Live or something. Pretty much, hey, smash that window. Hey, grab me those shoes. Like, I mean, it was kind of crazy. And I tuned in for all of that and kind of got to see it. And I was just kind of blown away. And then I didn't see anything else about it. And then it was really funny. It actually made Drudge Report a few days later that she had been arrested.
oh
So,
wow.
and the reason that it was significant is because they actually like traced everything back specifically to her just based off of something that had been like screen recorded and shared to them. So there was some significance to it or whatever. But just kind of seeing how everything's played out with the riots and protests, I don't necessarily think it's anything the type of unity that we've seen like in Hong Kong, for example.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Not even close.
Absolutely not. And I think a lot of that is because even within the liberty community, there still exists a significant divide between people of, left ideals and right ideals. And I think that that's a little bit of statism bleeding into our community. And we've seen that
Mhm.
it either gets ostracized appropriately or those people go somewhere else pretty consistently. So, everybody likes to complain about libertarian infighting, but what better way to ensure adherence to these principles of liberty than to
You don't keep the grass cut short, the snakes get in.
That's absolutely correct, bro. You said that the other day and that hit home because I mean that's the entire point, man. Like I have no problem correcting people. If you're sitting here asserting that, government is the solution for some sort of problem, I would challenge you to trace that problem back to its roots and look at what legislation created that problem and kind of think around how that need could best be served on a free market. And I think that that's one of the big things that I run into with, what are we calling them? Lefties. One of the things that I run into with lefties is, anti-states kind of overall it's nondescript. It doesn't say anti-socialist, which I mean, let's be honest, probably ought to, because I reject essentially all of that. But I see a lot of people that they seem a little bit confused and they think that, here's this guy that's operating this business and operating this liberty-based Instagram account. He must be not nonpartisan. But the fact of the matter is it doesn't have anything to do with left and right. It has to do with the strict adherence to principles of liberty. And
Mhm.
forced wealth redistribution is not ever going to be something that I'm able to get behind. you know
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I mean, taxation is theft. I mean, that's basically like the founding, the founding principle,
Yeah.
non-aggression. So
Well, I would say do unto others would be really the founding principle there. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, that's fair. I have such a hard time, with like in regards to like self defense. If somebody breaks into my home, I have no problem putting a few bullet holes through them. But when it comes to to the do unto others thing, is that it sounds kind of like eye for an eye to me sometimes, and so I kind of wonder, like in a stateless society, or just what's morally justified. Is it morally justified to kill somebody a year after the fact of them committing murder, for instance, or what have you? I think those are some interesting questions that I often ponder. Is what right do I have, even if this person has done unspeakable things? What right do I have to take away their life? And do I have that right?
Well, essentially, I mean, to a degree and within reason, it would be up to the victim in part
Yeah.
to decide what would make them whole in that instance.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
the least amount of force to permit that to happen would essentially simply be the ideal there. how we can achieve that in a stateless society, I've read a lot of stuff about how courts and how courts will work on the market, and it's really interesting, and it certainly seems superior to what the injustice system is that we're dealing with today. This system that people are like, oh, I'm going to change it from the inside. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
let me know how that works out for you, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Free Staters have been trying that. They haven't gotten very far with that so far. So, but then again, I mean, they do have the what is it? Anarchist, Satanist, transsexual that's about to possibly win the Republican or as a Republican for a sheriff and Keene, New Hampshire. So
How do you label yourself an anarchist and find yourself on the Republican ticket?
so I don't know how much you know about the Free State Project. These are they have this thing where they have 20,000 people that sign their name, basically saying that they would all move to one state in the hopes of having liberty in our lifetime. So basically,
This goes back to like 2014, 2015. It's the same.
it's like 18 years old at this point, I
Oh my
think.
God. Okay.
Yeah, so people are moving out there. I mean, they've had a lot of those guys out there. I listen to Free Talk Live. It's a radio show that's on every night, and I listen to them pretty often. They're based out of New Hampshire, and all those guys are free staters. And so Aria, she is she's the transsexual anarchist Satanist hosts on their program a couple nights a week. And so what they do up there is they run as either Republican or Democrat a lot of the times, because it's so hard to run as a libertarian. They have all these different restrictions as far as ballot access and all of this, so it's easier for a libertarian to run as one of the other parties. And so the reason that she chose to run as a Republican was because there was nobody else that had signed up, put their name in the pot. So it's hilarious because all these Republicans voted for somebody that they don't know a goddamn thing about. Because if it had said, if they had gone to the polls and it said, here's this person that's a transsexual Satanist anarchist, do you want to vote for them, for your nominee? They would have written somebody else in. But because it's just a name, they just mark it off. Well, there's nobody, they're running unopposed, so I might as well just check off the box. And so she's been pointing out to a lot of people, like, this, you put me here. Your lack of, your lack of research, your self-imposed ignorance has put me in this spot. And now, I'm rooting for her. I hope she wins against the incumbent Democrat. He's been there for, I think, like 4 terms. And, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I think she might get some of the left-wing vote, and, maybe some of the right wingers will still be stupid enough to vote for her, even though they should know
They've
better by
gotten
now.
this far.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's really interesting, man. No, I did not. I think I'd seen the news headline or something about her, but didn't really look into it too much. Certainly didn't realize where her political leanings are, and I'll certainly look into that some more. Sounds interesting.
It's pretty awesome. She's her platform is fuck the police.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, and so she won as the Republican nominee. So yeah, we'll see what happens in November.
I think fuck the police would be a good topic of conversation.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of my favorites.
Do you think we would be able to get into that on this episode, or you think we would be able to get into that on another one?
I think we're gonna have to actually wrap it up here. We are coming up to.
Yeah, it sounds like a topic.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be a topic for another day. I have a hard 1 hour limit on my podcast host, so and I got to get back to my lady. She just got back in town, so give her some time.
Word.
Of course.
Well, let's definitely set something else up.
Yeah, definitely.
Somewhere.
I appreciate having you guys on here. I am struggling through this podcast thing. It's kind of interesting for me. I'm kind of learning as I go. So, everybody bear with me. And I appreciate everybody staying through to the end if you're still here. I think
No
Jay and
worries.
Ryan kind of held that up, so appreciate that, you guys, and I definitely hope that I can get you guys back on here and have some more conversations. Definitely fuck the police. That'll be a good one for next time.
Yeah.
So
Cool. Well, thanks for having me.
yeah, definitely, man. Any last words, Jay? You want to plug your website? Anything else that you guys want
Not
to
at
drop in there?
not at all, man. Like I really I'm really looking forward to telling my followers about this and let my customers know about this, because I want them to come check out and see what you're doing. Um, I definitely think it'll be some good exposure for them to kind of hear normal dudes talking about this, and not people with some crazy agenda, but just people with some hardcore adherence to their principles. And I think overall it'll be really good, man. I'm excited about it. I've never done anything like this before. Ryan, have you ever done anything like this before?
No, I've never been a podcast host or guest, so this was the first time for me as well.
I mean, I definitely would like to do this again. Just getting a chance to talk and to both of you has been great. And
Yeah, 100%.
I think get us on for the next episode too, man.
Yeah, no doubt. Yep, Break the State podcast every other Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern time. For those that are listening right now, we had a little incident. I had told these guys to be on at 6:30, not realizing that Ryan is actually in a different time zone. So again, I do apologize about that, Ryan.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
well,
go ahead.
Yeah. Jay, you're in my time zone though too, right?
Yeah, we're in the same.
Or are you over?
No.
Oh,
we're
you guys are in the
Yeah.
same time
So
zone.
yeah, you're the odd man out.
Oh, shit, you're right. Dude, I don't know geography. I went to public school, man. All right, give me a break.
Yeah, they didn't teach you about longitude.
All right, guys. Well, I'm going to sign off here. I appreciate you guys, and be sure to check out Jay and Ryan on Instagram. I'm going to have all of their links and everything in the descriptions everywhere you can find this podcast, as well as YouTube. Appreciate you guys. Have a good night.
You too.
See you, bro.
Take care.
Take it easy, man.
Thanks for checking out Break the State Podcast episode 3. If you enjoyed today's podcast and you want more content from Jay and Ryan, be sure to give them a follow over on Instagram at antistate and at _or_else_what. You can also find all of your liberty-oriented shirts, hoodies, stickers, patches, and more at Jay's website, antistate.net. That's ANTISTATE.net. I definitely look forward to having both of these guys back on very soon, so stay tuned to my Instagram at Break the State Podcast for updates on future episodes. And of course, all of the mediocre Liberty memes your heart desires. You can also find me on YouTube, where I post each episode of the podcast the Friday after its original release. And finally, if you want to support this podcast, you can do so by going to anchor.fm/breakthestate and clicking on the support button. That's anchor.fm, anchor.fm/breakthestate. There you can also find links to all of the sites where you can currently stream this podcast. So that's it for me today. Thank you for sticking it out to the end, and remember, compliance is not a virtue. Peace.